What's going on, you guys? It's the watch list. It's a Wednesday. I'm Jayar. How you doing? I want to be honest with you guys, just to jump right off at the bat. I'm tired. Not like physically tired. I woke up early, whatever. None of that. I'm tired. I'm tired of the news. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm tired of the same things happening. I'm tired of talking about the same a-holes. I'm tired of these folks who just don't change, folks who don't understand what's right in front of their faces. I'm a little tired. Let's just keep it real. I'm tired. So you know what I need? I need a bit of an energy boost. I need someone who's always positive. Someone who's headed to a very positive place soon, where good times are had, and maybe he can drop a little bit on us before he takes off. Wosny Lambre joins me on the show today for a Wednesday. He's over at The Ringer. Also, he's a Rebel HQ contributor. What's going on, Woz?
I'm good, man. Appreciate all of those kind words. Although I don't know that Knick fans would call me positive because they seem to think that I never like their moves. So I'm glad that you would say that.
Well, the positive place that Watts is going to is, if I can say, the NBA Summer League over in Vegas, and that's gonna be fun times. I think that's part of the reason why I just got annoyed is because I want to go to Vegas. I like going to the Summer League. Come on, bro.
Listen, man, it's cool to watch some of the young up and coming talent. This is like the first time we're gonna get to watch Cade and Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith and those kind of guys. And yeah, the whole league flies down to Vegas, powwows, you make connections, you network. There's people looking for jobs. There's people looking for just good information. It's amazing, honestly. The ecosystem that has been created every single summer at the Summer League. So
I'll find my way back.
Shouts to everybody going to Summer League this year.
Absolutely, you guys have fun out there. I guess to go back to the reasons why I'm tired, let's go ahead and start in right again because there's excuses for what happened up in Highland Park over the 4th of July weekend. Let's go.
Accountability. These are the eyes of some of the mass killers who've reportedly been regular pot users. Look at them. Those in politics and in the media who devote their time and energy to fear-mongering on fake issues while covering up the truth about the growing scourge of violent psychosis in our young people, they have to be called out, they have to be defeated, and then the public has to be educated. And parents, this means you need to get into the game. This means you understanding that this can happen to you, to your family, no matter how wealthy you are, how well-adjusted you are, how mature and together your children seem. It's time to call out the phonies and call in the warriors for common sense. And that's the angle.
What does that mean? No, straight up, what does that mean? I was listening to that again. I heard her say it before. What does that mean when Laura Ingraham says, hey, we have to call out the phonies and the fakes? Hey, families, you have to understand your kids can be at risk as well. Like, okay, like what does that mean when we're talking about this latest mass shooting that happened? What does that mean? Oh yeah, all of our kids, they're youthful. Our youth are just out there, and can you believe it? You need to do something. Do what? Especially since we're avoiding the actual topic. But she's talking about there at the bottom camera on the screen. You can see the focus of this entire angle that she pointed out. Modern pot. Let's look at that again. That she had at the bottom. Exactly what is modern pot is the first question. Is this newly engineered pot? I think they have been saying that. But young folks are smoking too much weed, so therefore they are shooting up folks. Oh, shooting up people. Tucker Carlson's also on the same network. He says things to try and blame anything else but guns as well. Here's Tucker.
Look at Robert Bobby Crimo. Would you sell a gun to that guy? Does he seem like a nutcase? Of course he does. So why didn't anyone raise an alarm? Well, maybe because he didn't stand out. Maybe because there are a lot of young men in America who suddenly look and act a lot like this guy. It's not an attack, it's just true. Like Crimo, they inhabit a solitary fantasy world of social media, porn, and video games. They're high on government-endorsed weed. Smoke some more, it's good for you. They're numbed by the endless psychotropic drugs that are handed out at every school in the country by crackpots posing as counselors.
Because that's what's happening. So Tucker Carlson paints this picture of this young man. He said, by the way, he said he's suddenly these young men are looking and acting like this guy. Suddenly, if you go back to Columbine, you'll suddenly see that it's the exact same type of person. But the one thing that they all had in their hands were these weapons that murdered a bunch of people all at the same time. It's weird that that's still happening. But he had more on this because it wasn't just video games, pot, and porn and social media. It's actually, you guessed it, women.
Of course, they're angry. They know that their lives will not be better than their parents. They'll be worse. That's all but guaranteed. They know that. They're not that stupid. And yet the authorities in their lives, mostly women, never stops lecturing them about their so-called privilege. You're male, you're privileged. Imagine that. Try to imagine an unhealthier, unhappier life than that. So a lot of young men in America are going nuts. Are you surprised? And by the way, a shockingly large number of them have been prescribed psychotropic drugs by their doctors, SSRIs or antidepressants.
He said, can you imagine that? Well, I don't have to imagine it because he just came up with this imaginary scenario already where, the large influences on their lives are women, of course. You know, all those women are, they be nagging, tapping on his shoulder all the time. Hey, get off the video games. Hey, stop with the porn. Hey, chill out with the social media. Stop it. So apparently it's nagging women wise, and it's also video games, porn, social media. Before in the 90s, it was violent movies. It's just recycling the same thought processes over and over again and continue to think people are gonna buy it. And maybe they will.
Yeah, there's just kind of no coherence to any of this argument whatsoever. This idea that it's video games or that it's porn or it's social media, or is it the hard drugs that pharmaceuticals are pushing on people? Is it weed that's too strong now? Which, by the way, Jayar, I don't know about you, but from my understanding of the stronger weed, you're more likely to sit on your couch with a big old bag of Doritos. But I don't know, I might be wrong about that part of it. I just, these people on Fox News, obviously, they don't believe in the capacity for the government to do good works, for the government to put in policy that makes people's lives better. And so, of course, they think the problem is people, right? It's not the conditions under which we bring these people up and through. It's that people are jerking off too much, are smoking too much weed, and the women are calling them privileged. Like it's people's faults, and it's not the policies we put in place where it's just like, here's a gun, no job to speak of that has dignity, that'll make you pay these soaring rents, that'll make you be able to start a family, perhaps own a home. None of that. Here's the gun, here's nothing else. Go out in society. We won't help you when it comes to therapy and mental health because we have a ridiculously failing healthcare system. Pharmaceutical companies, I do agree with them on that point. These people and their profit motive, they are drugging the hell out of people. Way less so than marijuana because they're doing it quite legally on the federal level. And we give these people nothing else to speak of. But Tucker Carlson is not gonna talk about public goods and public works because he doesn't believe in them.
Not at all. So this thing, Tucker Carlson's approach is to talk about the bad things people are going through, which is true. As you said, you'll find these nuggets of information where he'll say, hey, these people are in dire situations, lack of good jobs, low paying wages, and lists all these things that oddly libs like to list and say we'd like to change so that people are in better situations and we actually have a healthier country and people who contribute to society in a better way or feel any kind of way a part of contributing to this or even having something that they're due. Being paid and living, being able to pay your rent and your bills. So those types of things he'll bring up, but he always cuts it off with who supports him, who has brought him to this point are the people who are absolutely against those things. So you can preach all the good stuff, but when you're paid by the people who actually actively work against those things, you're just fooling people into thinking you're some kind of savior or some knowledgeable person who's actually using them. Anyways, let's move on to this next story because what this leads to from death is death threats. Of course, this continues on.
I guess I can't say a whole lot more other than I hope you naturally die as quickly as possible, you f***ing piece of shit.
You backstabbing son of a bitch. go against Trump. Y'all know y'all mother sitting up there like a damn dog.
Hey, you little sucker. Gonna come protest in front of your house this weekend. We know who your family is, and we're gonna get you, you little sucker. You sucking little bastard. Gonna get your wife, gonna get your kids, you little sucking bastard.
You son of a bitch. You gave $200 to that black bastard that killed Ashley Babbitt. I hope somebody like him kills your nasty mom or your nasty wife. It's not a threat, it's a hope.
It's not a threat, it's a hope. It's just a bunch of really angry people sending threatening voice messages to Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who is retiring. He's taken off. So of course, just because he's sitting on that January 6th committee, he's getting all these voicemails. Before he had talked about a letter that he had received, but now he's releasing actual audio. But there's more. Let's listen.
Almighty come upon you, your health, your family, your home, your livelihood. And I pray, if it be God's will, that you suffer.
Sucking little bastard. We're gonna get you. We know where you live. We're coming to your house. Gonna get you, Mike. You little sucking bastard.
You're the biggest piece of shit politician in the world. Why don't you just leave and go away and shut your mouth, you pieces? You're a horrible, horrible garbage person. You Americans are garbage.
You knew that this threat that you got is nothing but a fraud. You did it, or
you're gonna swing for f***ing treason, you communist.
So there's all of that. There's even more, Waz. I honestly, I'm not sure if you guys can even listen to more of it because it's a lot of the same stuff. You're a traitor. I'm coming for your wife, your kids. I hope you die. I've been writing some of this stuff down, Waz. You're going up against Trump. So that's the whole purpose of this. You're gonna go up against Trump. So not you're wrong, not that this is detrimental to the country. You're going up against Trump because that's what this country is, it's Trump. Are gonna protest in front of your house. It tells you what they think of what protesting is. It's reasons why they go and want to attack folks when they are. That black bastard that shot Ashley Babbitt, I hope someone like him comes and does something worse to you. What kind of person would that be that's like him? A law enforcement officer, someone who's protecting the Capitol. Is that who you're talking about? One more thing, was because the religious folks out there would be very happy to remember, to realize that their fellow Christians pray for Adam Kinzinger to suffer, and that if God be His will. These are the thoughts and prayers that come from these kinds of Christians. So this is what we're dealing with now. By the way, there is more. I'm not gonna go to it, but there is more.
Man, I couldn't tell if I was listening to this guy's voicemail or a Dave Chappelle skit. Like, this is literally about as cartoonish, stereotypical as it gets when it comes to who people think are the type of hayseeds who most staunchly support Donald Trump, which is ironic because the dude is one of the biggest Yankees maybe in the history of American politics. Like, this guy was born and raised in freaking Queens, then moved to Manhattan, went to all these elite Northeastern schools. Like, he's about as Yankee as it gets, and these people worship at the altar of Donald Trump. That's kind of hilarious to me, to be quite honest. I don't know what to do with this kind of anger, this misplaced, misguided anger at a committee, which, by the way, is not gonna hand down any indictments. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody's gonna suffer. Nobody's gonna pay for this. All the people who orchestrated this and made this happen will be just fine. And the pissants who actually carried out the mission, who got abandoned by their dear holy leader, Donald Trump and his cohort, they're the ones that are gonna do hard time behind this. That's what's the craziest thing about this is, like, you're defending Trump's honor in this freaking committee, which is toothless and feckless. Nothing's gonna happen to that dude. The soldiers in your stupid little army are the ones who are going to the pokey.
Well, it's been happening that way, and then whenever there's 5 or 6 of them says something like, Donald Trump, he totally abandoned me. He left me here to rot. I can't believe it. And he goes, yeah, just give me few more dollars, you guys, because I need to raise some money about this whole election fraud thing. Moves right along. He just moves right along to the next thing. But they will continue to follow because, and I think Jake tweeted this a few weeks ago and I responded to it. He says he can't understand why anyone who would continue to follow Trump after seeing how he absolutely uses his followers for his own benefit. I was like, the racism is a very strong thing. And it rubbed some people the wrong way. But that's what he began his entire campaign with, was the racism. And ever since then, they said, this is our guy. I'll do anything for him. I will run up on the Capitol and risk my life. There's people in it. If you watch that first day of the January 6 hearings, there was a few people in there that said, that's what we came for. I'm willing to die, they said that day. And then they're also willing to kill, apparently, and at least threaten to kill Adam Kinzinger again for participating on this panel because he's a Republican. Which, by the way, don't forget, he is a Republican. That's based off the way he votes and the way he legislates. Just in this particular case, he's trying to do something different when it comes to this. It's a shame that's where we are. Let's do one more story, guys, before we go to this break, because we have another Republican that is towing that line, or at least pushing that Trump thought process. And you would not be surprised that it's the stupid process. Let's go.
Now, here's what I have to say. I mean, 2 shootings on July 4th, one in a rich white neighborhood and the other at a fireworks display. It almost sounds like it's designed to persuade Republicans to go along with more gun control. I mean, after all, remember, we didn't see that happen at all the pride parades in the month of June, but as soon as we hit MAGA month, as soon as we hit the month that we're all celebrating, loving our country, we have shootings on July 4th. I mean, that's, that would sound like a conspiracy theory, right? Of course. But what's the definition of a right-wing conspiracy theory? Well, by the way, it's the news that's just 6 months early.
What? Marjorie Taylor Greene is reading from a script that, at least as I speculated, at least she wrote, because it sounds just as ridiculous as something she would say off the top of her head. They're looking for motives behind this Highland Park shooter from July 4th. Suddenly, out of nowhere, you got shootings on July 4th. I bet that there's been shootings on July 4th in the past. And also it's in a rich white neighborhood, because now they can't go with the whole ploy of, hey, you know what happened in Chicago. You know Chicago, it's Chicago. You know what that means? Those dirty minorities in Chicago. They can't say that in this particular one. Now it's spread everywhere. So now it has to be a false flag because it's finally happened in a suburb of Chicago. And they can't just go for their normal blame game. There's more, because she decided to tweet. She's focused on this guy who carried out this shooting. And as mentioned, I want to check out the irony of this tweet as she wrote this. The public should not allow this to continue. What's the public gonna do, Marge? People are not stupid, right? Is he in jail or rehab or psychiatric center in this photo? That's not his bedroom. 22 years old, 5'11", 120 is not normal or healthy. What drugs are psychiatric drugs or both does he use? These are all questions we can ask Marjorie Taylor Greene, because look at that photo again. Can we look at that photo again? What room is he in? I don't know, because he's been photoshopped. Someone did clue her in on this, and she did tweet this in response. Just added to the list. Supposedly, this is Photoshop. Supposedly. Well, more reasons to release his records and what's wrong with him. Can we pause? Maybe you can answer the question, because I was gonna ask just in general. Why is this more reason to release his records? Because you realized that you commented on an obviously Photoshop picture. Why is that more reason to release his records? And what records are we looking to get released that haven't been released? People have dug all into this kid's background, and that's why we know who he was about and who his parents are and who they supported and his thought process. What do we need to release?
I think if there's one definitive thing we've learned about Donald Trump, and the most effective way to carry out being a public figure in 2022, is that you don't apologize. You don't double back. You never back down. In fact, at every single turn, no matter how wrong, how stupid, how much you messed up, you double down every time. Don't ever do anything but double down on your stupidity. It doesn't matter if you no longer have a point or if you've lost the thread. Just keep doubling down, never apologize, never say you made a mistake, never say you were wrong, and everything will work out in your favor. I think Trump has kind of proven that. Like, the guy just will literally refuse to say he's ever messed up anything. And if things don't go your way, it's a conspiracy. The votes are fake. The Democrats planned the mass shooting. That's why it's not in Chicago this time. It's just obfuscation and just lies all up and down the board, and it's worked in their favor. I mean, it's hard to argue with the results if your intended goal is just pushing your own self-interest.
If your followers are thirsty for an excuse to let you off the hook for everything that they see, it doesn't matter what kind of excuse you give them as long as you give them something. So it just doesn't matter. Just say anything. Okay, I'll take that because really I want to come back for the racism. That's what I'm here for. Let's take our first break, you guys. When we come back, a few of your thoughts and comments on those first few stories. But also, Ron DeSantis and his not his Don't Say Gay bill, but also the Stop Woke bill, which I had forgotten were separate, but somehow just as crazy as each other, also just went into effect a couple of days ago. And we're gonna actually see the real results of those things. We'll do that when we come back.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
It's like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We start a revolution. Yes, another one. Aren't you excited? Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody. Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care. You don't see a lot of news coverage in the mainstream media of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests that happened throughout the country.
Black Americans are hurting. Minorities in this country are hurting.
We always talk about starting from the bottom up, but the problem is the bottom up is always the least amount of power. No one cares about them, and until someone actually cares about them, then we'll do something about it.
Please, for God's sake, America, understand, acknowledge, and work towards getting to a new reality where Black lives actually matter.
Hey, you guys, we're back here. I'm glad you guys been writing in, talking, because it does lift my spirits a bit. Let's go to 2 IT members. It's Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, says, JR, you're far from alone. I think I can speak for all of us when we say we are too exhausted with the stupidity, hate, and violence, 100%. But you know what? It's not lost to me that I'm not directly experiencing these things. I haven't been in the middle of one of these shootings. You know, I haven't lost direct family members to COVID. You know, things that have been really taking people down. I've still had my job this whole time. You know, I still understand where I'm still doing great in comparison to some of the Americans that are affected by the things that we do. So yes, we'll still talk about it. We'll still try and expose all the craziness. Eric the Red says, no wonder you get tired of the news when you live in a country that works so hard at going nowhere. Yes. Ian also says Big Waz Wednesday. More for Waz over on Twitch. This is the funniest one from this one. Sedated 421 says, Waz, release your records, green screener.
You caught me.
What are you hiding?
You got me. Damn, I thought I could fake this one.
Obviously photoshopped. Let's jump to this next story, you guys. Happy for the laughs. Let's go back to the crazy.
The bill that we'll be signing here today provides substantive protections for both students and parents to ensure that the education they're receiving in Florida is consistent with the standards of the state of Florida. And those standards do not allow pernicious ideologies like critical race theory to be taught in our K through 12 schools. We are not going to use your tax dollars to teach our kids to hate this country or to hate each other.
Ron DeSantis back in April announcing right before he signed the Stop Woke Act. Yes, that's different than the Don't Say Gay bill that they went after. In this particular case, he wants to go after making sure we don't teach our kids, all of this wokeness and reality and history and things like that. Let's go to details of how that's being implemented because it did just come into effect on July 1st. But again, he was talking about kids, which by the way, kids should be taught real history. But as you go to details, you'll discover it has nothing to do with children. So this is an article from back in April when he did sign that. So in his continued push against the indoctrination of students, Ron DeSantis on Tuesday signed legislation that will require public universities and colleges to, listen to this, survey students, faculty, and staff about their beliefs and viewpoints to support, quote, intellectual diversity. The survey will discern the extent to which competing ideas and perspectives are presented in public universities and colleges and seeks to find whether students, faculty, and staff feel free to express beliefs and viewpoints on campus and in the classroom. That's again, according to the bill. The measure, which goes into effect on July 1st, as I mentioned, does not specify what will be done with the survey results. But DeSantis and Senator Ray Rodriguez, the sponsor of the bill, suggested on Tuesday that budget cuts could be looming if universities and colleges are found to be, quote, indoctrinating students. Meanwhile, the Board of Governors for Florida's public university system took the initial steps on Thursday to approve regulations for enforcing the law, with potential penalties including discipline and termination for employees who do not comply. The law also ties some university funding to compliance. So before we go to details and more on how this is, what they really wanted to add to this and how it's being seen in practice, quick recap. Surveying students at universities and faculty to see if any indoctrination is happening. Again, which children at universities again that they're trying to take this surveys that are being forced and are being threatened with funding and jobs to make sure they get these answers and then do what within this little government, this limited state government run by Ron DeSantis, looking to oppose woke ideologies in colleges and universities. I'm not sure, he went to college, he knows how these things work. He knows that colleges isn't this place where you just walk in and you get indoctrinated with everything that's being told to you. Plenty of people are talking, plenty of people discuss, and you have these things called classrooms where you write and learn and speak about things.
Man, I have so many thoughts about this. I think folks at home need to understand that Ron DeSantis is going to run for president in 2024. Yeah. He's going to oppose Donald Trump, and he's taking all of these measures so that he has, stripes on the board. He wants to show people that legislatively, he has done as many wingnut things as he possibly can. This is why he's doing this. He's trying to build a resume for his run for president in 2024. And I think the scary thing about DeSantis is that Donald Trump, because he had never held public office and didn't really care about doing the job of presidenting, he didn't do anything while he was in there. He basically passed the gigantic tax cut, COVID happened, and that sank his presidency, but he didn't do anything legislatively. Ron DeSantis is getting stuff done legislatively that are just every wingnut's dream and fantasy. So that's scary in and of itself. I think he's gonna be a thought leader for other folks in conservative states and districts, et cetera, to pass this type of wingnut stuff. But I think mostly this is just gonna have the effect of making schools in Florida less desirable for outside students. I think what's the best part about this, JR, is that this MFer went to Yale and Harvard, and the only reason he gets to be governor of a state as big and influential as Florida is that he went to those same elite institutions that he's dissing right now. It's hilarious. And guess what? People don't get to be Ron DeSantis because they went to wingnut factories like Liberty University. That doesn't happen. You get to be at the levers of power at elite institutions because you came from those same elite factories that Ron DeSantis was clearly manufacturing. So that's the most pernicious part about all of this is like, this guy knows exactly what he's doing. These Florida schools just become less desirable and you won't get to work at the Fed or Treasury or be at elite institutions that make the policies that govern our lives. DeSantis knows what he's doing.
Always try to match up what people say versus what it is that they're doing. So he'll talk about how all these, you talk about the elite universities, and when Obama was running for president and was president, Harvard was like the bastion of hell. And if you touched Harvard, oh my God, you're this elitist, snobbish SOB, and you're looking to overtake the country. Oh my God, you know what he learned at Harvard? The same things you guys did. You guys all went there. But once someone else on their side went to Harvard, it's an elite institution and higher learning, and he knows everything about the world, and he's prepared to be president. That's how these things work. There's more about what he did here. There was drafts on this where they actually want to make political appointees decide some of these things. It's a complete political move and a gesture to try and change the entire process for learning in his state. And it flies under the radar. I just want to point that out. Let's jump to this next story, you guys.
Today's decision is a win for the Constitution and a win for the sanctity of human life. Amen. June 24th, 2022, a date that will be remembered for a win for the sacredness of human life.
And just because you have emotional scars doesn't give you the right to take the life.
You don't believe the state of Arkansas would have any exceptions at all?
The reason that we have waited is to see a court ruling from the Supreme Court that gave us the capacity to fulfill that. So that's exactly what it would be.
In South Dakota, the law today is that the abortions are illegal except to save the life of the mother.
And you would be okay with that, a 10-year-old girl having to have a baby?
No, I'm never okay with that. In fact, that story will keep me up at night. What I would say is I don't believe a tragic situation should be perpetuated by another tragedy.
Let me tell you what will help you out more in your life. When you have a baby and you love someone more than you've ever loved anyone in your entire life.
I want to thank you for the historic victory for life.
Conservatives are still celebrating the overturning of Roe versus Wade, but the situation that actually happens on the ground when it comes to patients, the doctors, hospitals, and actually reality of medical procedures has to start happening. And as we see it happen, the celebrations become a lot different than the reality. Let's go to some of the reality because it's already beginning to happen from day one. So this is from the Washington Post. They mentioned how barely moments after the Supreme Court struck down Roe versus Wade, jubilant activists excitedly turned to the next step, criminalizing abortion to the maximal extent possible. This includes blocking women from seeking abortions across state lines, we know about that, and even empowering citizens to punish people who help those women by hitting them with vigilante lawsuits. That's important. It's going to go to exactly how people are responding, whether or not those lawsuits are coming or not, and that was by design. The rush to criminalize abortion is also opening up a separate front on the abortion wars that involve the treatment process itself. At its core is an unsettling question. How can a doctor be certain whether conducting an abortion to protect a woman from grave injury or death might constitute a crime? They don't really know. Louisiana's trigger laws, which a state judge has temporarily blocked, provide exceptions to the abortion ban if the woman faces potential death or extremely serious injury. Yet again and again, the medical professionals testify that fear of facing prosecution will lead healthcare providers to refrain from exercising that exception to act in patients' treatment interests. Why is this? Precisely because it's not clear from the language in the trigger laws how a sick patient must be to qualify as an exception. Some of these sick patients sometimes have ectopic pregnancies we've been talking about. This is a particular, personal story from one nurse that has a presence, has a platform, and she talked about this letter that she did receive from another nurse that saw this immediately, and these are the type of stories that have been getting talked about. Let's watch.
This is from an L&D nurse in one of the states that passed an immediate and all-encompassing abortion ban. I don't have a platform, so I can't reach people like you can, but please share this. I work in blank on a small NICU L&D floor. Our trigger laws went into effect immediately after the decision. Of course, we had a woman with an ectopic walk in at 11:30 last night. We had to basically sit on her until the doctor could speak with a lawyer. Her ectopic ruptured. She then did not get her procedure done for another 9 hours because the doc was working with the lawyer for so long, trying to work around the laws and not lose his license. By the time she had her procedure, she had over 600 cc's of blood in her abdomen. She almost died. I'm so scared of how often we as nurses are going to have to see things like this and not be able to do a damn thing about it. We are all livid at Huddle tonight. Several of my coworkers were in tears. This is day one. This is day one. Women are going to die.
Stories like that from cross country from nurses and doctors that are seeing some patients, but that's just a one-off story. I get it. Who knows? It's anecdotal. It only happens once. And she's just telling that because she wants to push her agenda. No actual congressperson or a state senator or any of these folks who are making these trigger laws who now have gone into effect, they wouldn't be talking about ectopic pregnancies don't mean anything, would they? Here's Brian Sates from Oklahoma.
Which states that abortion is okay to remove an ectopic pregnancy. And can you explain to me why that exception is in there?
Thank you for the question. This is language I didn't focus on too much. Oh, it's what abortion does not include. I cannot say why that particular language is in here, but to me it would be common sense to put that language in here.
Senator Hamilton, you're recognized for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. President. But a child who is, in fact, living out part of his or her early life as the unfortunate circumstance of being an ectopic pregnancy is, in fact, still a unique human being with its own DNA. And I wonder, I just don't understand why we've created an exception where we allow those children to be murdered, but not the others.
Those children, I'm sorry, that's not Brian Sates, that's Warren Hamilton from April when they were discussing this. Why that child, as the ectopic pregnancy that's gonna kill the mother, why they can't experience life? They're not experiencing it. That's an ectopic pregnancy. These are the type of people who are making these laws, Waz.
Right, they don't even understand abortion fully. They just know that they want sex to have consequences, JR. Like basically that's what it boils down to. Because again, it bears repeating. These people don't want to support mothers who, carried out an unwanted pregnancy because of financial and economic constraints. They don't want to support them in any way, in that way. They don't want to endorse sexual education, birth control, contraception access. They don't actually care to be like, all right, let's prevent these unwanted pregnancies in the first place. They just don't care. They just really want to be in the sex lives of women, particularly. That's basically what they want. And they want women to face quote unquote consequences when or if they have sex for sport. It's obvious that's all they care about. But the fact of the matter is that the reason why Roe was passed in the first place is that people are gonna get abortions if they want them, one way or another. That's just the simple fact of life here. And so we could either make it safe for them to do so, or we could do the dumb stuff that we're doing right now. But best believe this is not going to actually stop people from obtaining abortions. I promise you that.
Well, I mean, I don't think they really care. It's honestly the other part about this whole push is also to win elections and say that you're holier than on your moral Christian values, all the same stuff that they actually don't live when they're actually putting in these laws together that discriminate against folks, that actually get people hurt and killed. So that whole Christian approach we know is nonsense, but they've convinced enough people. That's just the approach that there is. Hurt people and then get elected. It's great. It's a good job. That's what our politicians do here. Let's go to this next story, because this is more updates from the ongoing thing with Brittany Griner. I don't want to let up on the situation that she's dealing with over in Russia. Let's go.
As we reported earlier, WNBA superstar Brittany Griner has reached out directly to President Biden with a handwritten note asking him not to forget her while she's being held in Russia. Griner is scheduled to make another court appearance in a Moscow suburb on Thursday, where Russian authorities claim that she had cannabis oil in her luggage. The U.S. says she's wrongfully detained. According to a representative, the basketball superstar tells President Biden in the letter, quote, "As I sit here in a Russian prison alone with my thoughts and without the protection of my wife, my family, friends, Olympic jersey, or any accomplishments, I'm terrified I might be here forever."
WNBA star Brittany Griner is still in Russia as they go to trial. We'll get to some of those details of what it is that even means over there. But she, as you saw there, has sent a letter personally written by her to President Biden asking for some extra assistance. This has been ongoing for months now. So here's a little bit more other piece about that letter that is actually really sad. She says, "I realize you're dealing with so much, but please don't forget about me and other detainees. Please do all you can to bring us home." Some of those things could be like prisoner swaps. As we know, a lot of this is used as bargaining chips for other folks that maybe Russian leadership wants back, people we've got here. But here's some details on what they did, what the reasons why they're at least holding her there and what could come from this trial. She's detained by a Russian Federal Customs Service in February. It's been since February, after it was discovered vape cartridges that contained hashish oil in her luggage at an airport near Moscow. That's what they're alleging. Her trial began on Friday, and it's widely speculated that Moscow could use Griner to negotiate the release of high-profile Russians in U.S. custody. She faces up to 10 years in a penal colony if she's convicted of the drug charges in Russia. Her trial began on Friday, and legal experts, this is the bad part, said that she was likely to be found guilty, but not necessarily on the merits of the case. They said there's a bias mainly because the Russian judicial system says they really should not go to trial unless the defendant is going to be convicted. That's what the acting director of the Kinzinger Institute and an expert on Russian law said to the New York Times. There's no real idea or expectation that the defendant could be innocent. There's no presumption of innocence, really. That really sucks. Also, Brittany Griner's wife has been consistently speaking to the media, and she's still pleading with them to do something more. Let's hear more from her.
Because I haven't been able to speak to her, real time, I don't necessarily know, but I know my wife really well. So I feel confident in saying that I think the decision for her to feel the need to directly reach out to President Biden is because of the failed attempts that we have had as a family. She's there and she knows that we are doing everything that we can in our own strength to, ask to meet with the president and to, request that, they do everything they can to get her home. And it kills me every time that, when I have to write her and she's asking, have you met with him yet? And, I have to say no. And she's like, you know what? I'm sure she's like, I'm gonna write him and ask now because, my family has tried and to no avail. So I'm gonna do it myself.
So yeah, it's an ongoing story. It's sad. I don't know at what point we're gonna figure this whole thing out. But Waz, I feel like there's other factors here that I hope aren't at play when it comes to who Brittany Griner is, considering she's a woman, a black woman, and has a wife. These are things that make people lose sympathy for some folks.
Yeah, I think some of the framing of this was that, if this was Derek Jeter or LeBron James, he'd be home already.
We don't know.
So sure about that.
Yeah, we don't know.
Because this is not just some American person who's been imprisoned abroad. This has kind of become a hostage crisis, essentially, when they're talking about, we're trading prisoners. America is essentially at war with Russia via proxy through Ukraine. So this is basically, she's being held hostage. And if people can do their history on stuff like the Iran hostage crisis, that thing dragged on forever. And we did end up having to release some people. I think we had to pay some monies, et cetera. But yeah, this thing has gotten really ugly, man. And I really hope that a resolution can come. I would hope that they could just give these cats some of their own prisoners. Like, here, take your filthy Russian spies and prisoners and take them back. Bring these folks home.
And of course, there's always the worry of that inspiring for this to happen more. But I mean, maybe at this particular point, I mean, hopefully when we do get Brittany Griner back, this is a warning sign for other folks that may be in certain positions to not even find themselves in that. But again, how was she to know? Who would think that they would be the target? I can't say many people would. Let's have one semi-humorous story for the show today, you guys. I'm glad you're here for this, Woz. I feel like everyone must have at least been on one side of this debate or another. Let's go to this.
Still good in the ocean is a jellyfish.
Yeah.
Yep. Giant squid. We're at a standoff. Yeah, but you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong. Yeah, you are.
You know how you get it pissed off. Do something entertaining. No parking, no peace. Just speed. No parking, no peace. Why is it all necessary? You're protesting. You might as well do something.
I love to see how this is going to turn out.
You know, when the cops come by, they're going to move you anyway. I'm over there. Let him park. Did I tell you? Let him park.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So there we have it. You know, you guys, I think everyone has been on this type of scene before. Maybe not this extreme, but there's a woman standing in a parking spot trying to save it for her friend because it's too busy here. I've seen this happen a lot. I can't say I've ever done it, but once people start noticing what's going on, you should probably move out of the way. But you know what? As the crowd collected and people began to talk more about it, she stood her ground. She continued. Let's watch.
No, I'm just trying to leave.
It's not handicapped, you racist.
Yeah, we had to take a purpose. Yay! Justice is served. I know.
It's one of those situations where once you've already dug your heels in pretty deep, you just kind of can't really leave with any dignity left. If you finally leave, now it's like, oh, I can't say anything. I can't do anything. I can't continue to go this route because now the entire crowd is against me. The chants really got to her when I think they said move out the spot or something like that. Let him park. I went to USC, Woz. Parking was an issue down there. And sometimes you are tempted to do something like this. But once somebody pulls up and kind of charges at you a little bit, because it's Los Angeles, you move the hell out the way. I'm not sure which city this was in.
Yeah, people do this in New York all the time. Back when I was living in Queens, oftentimes your neighbor would put a cone in front of their parking spot. Like, all right, this is mine. I'm using it when I get back from work. I've personally never been that type of person. I'm not gonna spin around a parking lot for 20 minutes trying to find the closest one to my destination. I will just walk. I'm the kind of person that whatever's the easiest place for me to park, I'm gonna park there and I'll just walk. It's completely fine. But some people wanna be 2 steps away from their destination and they're willing to run people over it. I feel like this white lady was about to get ran over behind trying to save this spot.
It's not worth it. People can see, they understand what situation is. Everyone also gets, hey, I would like to have the spot as well, but if it just doesn't work out. It did look like in this particular case, it wasn't necessarily a closer spot. Kind of seemed like the only spot, which is gonna be the case. Looks like it was a big weekend. A lot of people at this particular spot. Hey, bad luck, sorry. Because I've sat there before and like, oh, maybe. And as soon as someone comes, you gotta go. You know, you said you lived in New York and I deal with this. I saw this really fast. Parallel parking. I'd never seen this before until I was in downtown Manhattan. And they had these like bumper guards behind certain people with like a Mercedes or something, and they would flip it out the trunk, and it was like a bumper pad.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing.
Well,
how come this isn't all over the place enough?
Let me clue you in on a little thing in New York we like to call the love tap. The parking spots is so small. Oftentimes, you're gonna tap the person behind you or in front of you's bumper so that you can fit snugly into the spot. And so some people understand that the love tap is a thing. And so they throw their, they shield their bumpers from the love tap.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with the tap, and there's nothing wrong with shielding it. I gotta keep it real. Because also sometimes you just have to. As long as you don't scrape as you dig in, as long as the tap is head on and not a scrape. Tap, not scrape. Keep it real. I do enjoy that though. I could talk about parking wars and driving things all the time, but I think you guys understand me on that. As long as you're not driving a Prius, you're good with me. Let's finish up, you guys, because there's a little bit of an inspirational athlete story, but not the same athletes we always hear from, but it's definitely about our gun issues in the country. Let's watch.
I'm actually gonna keep this really brief and not answer any questions about the games. I'm not joking. I'm sick to my stomach about what's happened in Illinois today, and I think we need to talk about gun control. You guys can write about the game if you want, but I don't really give a shit. It's a sick, vicious cycle that keeps happening over and over, and we're doing nothing about it, and it makes me sick. I don't know, Congress, senators, if anyone sees this, do something. Our kids get shot up, and we say thoughts and prayers, and it does nothing. And then we talk about it on social media, and then it does nothing. And then our government does nothing, and then someone gets shot up again. So I don't even know what to say. I'm not a politician, but I'm a human being, and my kids are, I fear for them when they go to school, and it pisses me off. And I think if it doesn't piss you off and you don't want new gun laws in this country, then there's something wrong with you. So I guess that's all I have to say.
You can feel the frustration from LA Galaxy midfielder Sasha Kljestan. Pulled a bit of a Steve Kerr there and it's like, I'm coming to this press conference. We're not talking about this game. It's not important compared to what it is that we're dealing with. I think it's a bit of an opening trend of many athletes that have no worries about speaking out about things they care about that are outside of the pitch, the field, the court, anything that comes to this particular point of view. But since he brought it up and he said, I'm not talking about this game, then he was asked about Supreme Court decisions. Let's watch more.
On top of the Supreme Court's decision
that's a whole nother subject.
Their decision on New York and guns.
It's ridiculous that we have 9 people that don't really represent what the majority of Americans want, making decisions and then taking liberties away from women and putting everyone's lives at risk by allowing these insane laws.
Have you had that conversation with your kids about what's going on?
Yeah, it's sick. They tell me that they practice at school for if there is a shooter to come in. It's sad. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I think it's good to hear also, they always do these profiles on athletes and who they are in their home life and where they came from, and it's all these inspirational stories, but we never hear about the fact that with these guys, who we'd see is so distant from everyone else, can sit down and talk about it, mentioning his kids have to go through those same gun preparedness drills that any other parents' kids would have to go through. And they can actually see this as, they actually care because they're going through it as well. And it doesn't just reach beyond us, because we like to put ourselves in these positions of, those rich people, they don't deserve to go through what I go through. They're going through it too, because this is one of those things that encompasses everyone, as we've seen. So I'm sure he'll be popping up on Laura Ingram's show, telling him to shut up and dribble, except a different way, because athletes apparently are not supposed to have a voice. It's growing, Woz, and it keeps happening. I'm glad it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad this homie feels the confidence to, speak his mind and just talk about the issues of the day. However, I would caution everybody to get excited about this because these dudes are not all in lockstep with the things that we agree with. I was personally annoyed by Tim Tebow and his pro-life crap that he was on back when he was a player doing Super Bowl commercials about restricting abortion and stuff like that. So like this thing can cut both ways is what I would encourage people to understand. So like, I'm glad this homie speaking his mind, but man, I don't know that I would want, dudes getting up there and talking about their views on the gays or their views on guns or their views on what have you, because trust me, there are plenty of professional athletes who do not share our worldview.
Oh yeah, no, and actually they have been saying it. Actually, their views on gays and guns. We'll get that, and honestly, I think it's okay then too. It's okay to get someone's perspective and point of view, because then what they may see in the discussions and maybe even some of the responses they get might be a little bit of an educational moment. They're not too far from the education either, or they're not too far from actually seeing what the rest of society's gone through and potentially actual things that could fix things as well. Maybe those things would change. I'm definitely not for muting people. Go ahead, say it, and then we'll respond. That's not cancellation, that's response. Thank you guys for joining us. That's the end of the watch list today. I'm getting the big X's out. So coming up next, John Adirola with the Damage Report. Woz, thank you for joining us on a Wednesday. I will be joining John on the Damage Report as well. So we're going back to back to back to back to back. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow though.